Hello everybody, my name is Andrew Dingus. Today, we're gonna look at every single movie I watched in the month of November. I watched a lot, so without wasting any more time, let's get straight into it. We started off the month strong with Signs, a 2002 M. Night Shyamalan film. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend this. I personally really enjoyed it, and if I had to give it a rating, I'd probably give it a 7.5 or 8 out of 10. We're just gonna lock it in at 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. Next up, I watched Late Night with the Devil. Now, there's a couple reasons why I didn't like this. Primarily, it felt very weird and almost abruptly ended. Another thing to strongly dislike about this film is the use of AI in this film. I know it's not a large part of the film. I know a lot of people can easily overlook that. I personally have a hard time overlooking it, knowing that it was blatantly created with AI when someone could have been paid to make that screen. It's just a little bit annoying. I didn't particularly care for the film, though. 4 out of 10. Next up, we have The Wild Robot. If this movie is playing in a theater near you... Okay, alright. Come a little closer. If this movie is playing in a theater near you, I want you to go watch this movie. Right now. Stop watching this video. Leave a like first. But stop watching this video and go watch it right now. It's really good, is what I'm trying to say. It's one of the best animated movies I've ever seen. That I can remember, honestly. I'm just going to say it. It is the best animated movie I've ever seen. I think you're really going to enjoy this and really feel like you got your money's worth. There's so much I want to say about this movie, so much so that I'm going to make another full video review about it. But without further ado, let's just slap it with a 9.5 out of 10 and move on. Next up, I watched Dune, and not gonna lie, I have not seen part 2. I plan on watching part 2 sometime in December. I didn't personally care for this all that much. I'm gonna be completely honest. I do think that it sets up the second movie to knock them dead. Okay, I should clarify. I don't like this as much as a lot of people do. I'm not 5-starring this movie. I do still think it's a good film. I would give it a 7 out of 10, but I just didn't personally love it that much. Then I watched Nefarious, and I wrote a really long review on Letterboxd for this movie. If you want to check out that review, I will leave my Letterboxd profile in the description down below. This was good, but it could have had some things left out and more specifically added in, particularly at the beginning of the movie, that I think would have made the movie a whole lot stronger. Again, you can check out my full review and follow me at Letterboxd in the link in the description down below. I'd give this a 7 out of 10. Next up, I watched Black Widow. This was relatively disappointing. I'm not gonna lie. It's kind of bonkers to me how Black Widow is not the main character in the movie called Black Widow. I also think this came out at the wrong time and that there was a lot wrong with it. 6 out of 10 film for me. Then I rewatched Trap, and this was fun on a rewatch. What can I say? The more I rewatch it, the more details I pick up on. You should watch it yourself if you haven't watched it. It's pretty good. I know a lot of people hated it, but I am personally of the opinion that it was good, that it was well made, and that I enjoyed it. Sue me. Please don't. I can't take another lawsuit. Then I watched Rogue One, and I don't know why. I have a really core memory about this movie. It's the first movie that I had a friend legitimately want to give me. I kid you not, I have a friend who may be watching this right now, that their family so strongly disliked Rogue One that they straight up said, "We'll give you our DVD of it because we hated it that much." I don't know. I personally thought it was really good. I thought it was a good time. I thought it was a good Star Wars movie, especially compared to The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. I thought it was a really good Star Wars movie, but I thought it was a good movie overall. I'd give it a 7 out of 10 if you held me at gunpoint and told me to rate Rogue One. Do it now. It's only happened once so far. Then I watched The Happening. If you can't tell, I'm trying to see M. Night Shyamalan's entire filmography before the end of the year. This was good. It was definitely a very you'll either love it or you'll hate it movie, which is odd because I didn't particularly love it or hate it. I thought it was, frankly, very goofy at times, despite the relatively serious subject. I think Mark Wahlberg did well in the role. I know a lot of people don't think he did well because his lines come off as insincere some of the time, but this was a good movie. I enjoyed it, and if you haven't seen it, and if you're a fan of some mystery, then maybe consider giving it a watch. I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10 overall. Didn't love it, but I also didn't hate it. Next up, I watched Ready or Not, and this was a lot of fun. It's not for everybody, and I understand that. A lot of people don't necessarily like dark comedies, but if you are a fan of dark comedy, like, for example, I think a good movie to compare this to, okay, it's not a good movie to compare it to, but if you liked The Menu at all, give Ready or Not a try. I think you may enjoy it. I'd give it a 6.5 out of 10, personally, just because I didn't love it. I thought some things could have been done differently. Some things could have been done better. But I did still enjoy it. I did still think it was a good time. Then I rewatched Deadpool and Wolverine. It was not as good on a rewatch. Listen. Come closer, okay? I get that a lot of people love this movie, but I just personally had a hard time watching it the second time, okay? Sue me. It was still a good 6.5 out of 10 film, but it was lacking a whole lot on a rewatch. Next up, I watched Ready Player One. This is a great video game movie. I know some people complain and they pee and moan, be like, oh, half of this was just an animated movie. Well, it was a really good animated movie, so we're gonna stop being negative about this dadgum film. 8 out of 10 from me. Then I watched Assembled, the making of Deadpool and Wolverine. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't give this a star rating just because I didn't really feel like I could accurately give it a star rating. It was some cool information about how the movie was made. If you want to know more about how Deadpool and Wolverine was made, then watch this. But I mean, other than that, it was like a 7 out of 10 documentary for me. Then I watched The Longest Day. Aside from some older films that I saw as a kid, I think this is the oldest film I've watched in quite a while, and it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It's obviously not gonna be for everybody because it's a very long movie for what it is, and it is I'm just gonna be perfectly honest, the editing is very boring. It's very long. It's basically a play, but filmed on a camera. But it was still good. It's a really great story. It is a little bit hard to keep track of who's who, simply due to the fact that everybody looks very similar in the movie. Regardless, I'd give this a 7 out of 10. Next up, I watched Extraction, and this was a rewatch for me. I've seen Extraction. It was like 3 years ago. And this film takes itself very seriously. That's all I'm going to say. If you're a fan of action movies and you have Netflix, go ahead, give Extraction a watch and comment your thoughts on it down below. I would give it a 7 out of 10. We have to move on. I've seen way too many movies this month. Next up, I watched Madagascar. This still makes me laugh a whole lot in 2024, and dadgummit, we need a bit of laughter. And honestly, almost all of the jokes still hold up and still make me absolutely hurting from how much I'm laughing at them. This was an 8.5 out of 10 for me. Let's move on. Then I watched Glass Onion, and I specifically remember not enjoying this when it came out, which is kind of odd because I really enjoyed it this go around. I thought it was very charming. I thought that the story was good. I thought the characters were interesting. I do think one character in particular could have been done a little bit better and could have been handled a little more tactfully. But regardless, I still enjoyed this movie. I would give it an 8 out of 10 overall. It's a good mystery. If you haven't seen this movie, go check it out. Then I watched Day Shift. I could say a decent bit about this movie, but I think I'm going to explain it in one simple sentence. Professional dentist frequently murders people. and enjoys doing so. 7 out of 10 film for me. Let's move on. I rewatched Trap again, still a 7.5 out of 10. Then we watched Madagascar 2. I do think this is a step down in quality, but I still hold fast that this is one of the funniest and best done openings to an animated movie ever. It's so fun. It's, even if the story is not as good as the first one and is not as solid overall, this is still a great film. And this is one of the instances, in my opinion at least, where the quality does not substantially drop from the first movie to the second movie. Granted, this movie is not as good as the first, in my opinion. I still think it's a great movie. It's a great sequel, and it carries on the story in a good way. So, 8 out of 10 film for me. Then I watched Kate, and if you can't tell, yes, I do have my Netflix subscription for the year for a month right now. This was good. This was fun. The setting was good. The characters were good. I really enjoyed it. Some great action. A couple really, really good action scenes throughout this. None of the action scenes felt extremely boring, which I cannot say the same about some other 87 North Productions movies. Some of the action feels really, really boring in some of their other movies. I enjoyed this. I think you will too. If you're a fan of action films, you should give this a check out. If you have Netflix, it's really, really late. I need 7.5 out of 10 if I didn't already dadgum say that. Then I watched 21 Bridges. 21 Bridges is a fun time. It's a fun thriller. It is very, very serious. It takes itself very, very seriously. If you're not a fan of more serious, kind of heavy movies, then this probably won't be for you. But yet again, if you like some action or if you like a good thriller and you have Netflix, I don't know if this is still on Netflix or not. I forget if this was one of the movies I was watching before it left Netflix. But honestly, I'd give this 8 out of 10. This was really enjoyable. Then we watched Madagascar 3, and this is definitely the worst out of all 3 Madagascar movies, plus Penguins of Madagascar. This is by far and away the worst. It's still good. It's still not a bad movie per se, but it is less enjoyable than the other 3 movies from the franchise. And also, something I noticed, and it's probably me being older, is that, and I didn't care about this as a kid, I thought these movies were all on the same level as a kid, but something I noticed is in the first movie, there are issues throughout the movie, and some of those issues take like the entire movie to solve, whereas in Madagascar 3, it was like, oh, there's an issue. 5 minutes later, oh, issue fixed. Oh, there's a new issue. Oh, issue fixed. 10 minutes later. Ooh, issue. Minute. It gets fixed after 2 minutes. Like, I think the story was just weaker in 3 overall than it was in the other movies. Then, late at night, I watched Gladiator. Now, I'd probably enjoy Gladiator more if it wasn't quite so dark outside and also dark in the movie. This is a very dark movie. And it was good, but I don't necessarily get the, like some people I know are, like, gaga for this movie. They're like, oh, it's the best, most realistic, it's the best movie of 2000, which I haven't seen every movie from 2000. I can neither confirm nor deny that. But it was good, don't get me wrong. I would give it a 7 out of 10, but I did not think it was an amazing film, like a lot of people do. Next up, I watched Gladiator 2, and I'm not gonna lie, I am probably in the major minority of people who think this way. I personally enjoyed Gladiator 2 more than the first movie. Part of that is probably because Gladiator 2 does get to things a little bit quicker. Obviously, 2000 versus 2024 films are going to have some differences in pacing and differences in editing. I had more fun watching Gladiator 2, I'm not gonna lie. The first Gladiator was kind of a very, very heavy drama, whereas Gladiator 2 felt like more actual gladiating happened. That's not a word, but regardless, I'd give this a 7 out of 10. It was long. If you're watching this in theaters, it felt longer than it was, so do be prepared for that. Then I watched Kung Fu Panda 4, and while I did like it, I feel about Kung Fu Panda 4 a lot like I feel about Toy Story 4. It didn't need to exist. There's no reason it should exist. They should have stopped at 3. This was still good. I'd still give it a 6 out of 10, but I do think it's a substantial quality drop even from Kung Fu Panda 3. Next up, I watched The Matrix Resurrections. I can't remember the last movie that made me this mad at a film. Just mad over the fact that it did absolutely nothing. It did nothing new. It did nothing unique. And I feel bad, like, dogging on a film this hard, but I didn't enjoy it. I really, really disliked it. In fact, I disliked it so much that I'm probably going to make an entire review on the movie. So, 2 out of 10 for me. Just move on, please. The Gray Man. It's a pretty generic action movie. It did some things really, really cool, but it used way too many drone shots. This was a 6.5 out of 10 overall, okay? It was fun to watch the actors and actresses kick, but it was, in my opinion, held back by the PG-13 rating. I think they should have gone all in and given Ryan Gosling an R-rated action film in 2022. Then I watched The Killer. This was a really fascinating film, especially considering the fact that in the first 35 minutes, I don't think the main character says a single word out loud. It's a good film. If you don't like action movies, you probably won't like it. If you don't like thriller movies, you probably won't like it. But I'd say it was fine. It was a good movie. I do not feel like I wasted my time watching this movie, but I would say that I probably won't ever watch this movie again, just because it's one of those movies where you're like, oh, that was good, and then you never touch it again. Like, that's at least my personal opinion with this movie. I'd give it a 6 out of 10 overall. Then I watched Mortal Kombat. I just thought this movie was pretty cheesy. I personally didn't really care for it that much. It suffered from some weird pacing in the middle of the film, and some real plot conveniences that I feel like I just can't ignore. So, it was fine, but there are substantially better things you could spend your almost 2.5, I think, hour... Wait, how long was Mortal Kombat? Now I want to know. Mortal Kombat was 110 minutes long, so it wasn't quite 2 hours. There's a whole lot better movies you could watch with an hour 50 minutes of your time that I would recommend. Like the next movie. The Sixth Sense. I will spoil nothing. On my second watching, this became a 5-star film for me, in my opinion. I saw it about a month ago. Literally, I had to watch it again. I was like, I need to reconsume that movie because it was just so good and captivating. Watch this if you haven't seen it. That's not a request. Watch this if you haven't seen it. And we wrapped up the month with some good family fun. No, I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I watched the best Christmas pageant ever. This was a really, really fun movie. It was a cute movie. It was a nice movie. It was a warm movie. Relatively expected. Not super, super incredibly inventive, but I did really, really like the message. And especially for a Christian movie, it was not incredibly preachy or incredibly annoying about really anything. I do think it started a little bit strangely, but then it got a whole lot better halfway through, and especially at the end of the film, it got way, way better at the end of the film. It's almost like they blew the entire budget at the end of the film, but I really enjoyed this. I'd give it an 8 out of 10 overall, and if it's in your theaters and you're looking for a good family fun Christmas movie, then you should go see this. It'll probably challenge you a bit more than Moana 2 will. Not digging on Moana 2, but I've heard that it is the most play-it-safe film of the year. But yeah, that was what all I watched this month, aka November. I'm aware it's a couple days into December, okay? There were a lot of movies to cover. I watched 35 movies this month. So, therefore, I don't want to hear it, that I was a little bit late. Watch another one of my videos. You like that? You like that dramatic change from being mean at you to suddenly wanting you to watch another one of my videos? Watch what I watched last month. Here, you can consider subscribing right over my face. Go get a snack. You look a little hungry. What are you doing? Why are you still in the video?